Welcome back to the Chicagolandians, a casual Chicago sports podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Cunningham, joined by my co-host, Conor Cunningham.
We're two brothers from the Chicagoland area talking about the latest and greatest in Chicago sports news.
Welcome back to another episode of the Chicagolandians. I'm your host, Patrick Cunningham. I'm joined, as always, by my wonderful co-host, Conor Cunningham.
Hello.
And on today's very special episode, we are joined by our longtime friend of the pod, DJ Almada. DJ, you want to introduce yourself?
That was a great start. Yeah, like you said, longtime friend of these two jabronis. I'm excited to talk about the Bears. We're all Bears fans and normally disagreeing, so this could be fun. Or maybe we'll agree on some stuff.
We've known DJ since freshman year of high school, and he quickly became one of our closest friends, and we're happy to have him on the podcast today to talk about the Bears. Specifically on today's episode, we're going to be going over NFL bold predictions. One of my three relates to the Bears, but some of bold predictions for the Bears kind of boil down to just homer takes that I thought were kind of boring, so we opened the floor up to just general NFL bold predictions. I have three bold predictions. I think Connor has a little bit more, and DJ, has his own list of predictions that we're going to be going over, sharing our thoughts. These are a little bit less research-based or evidence-based maybe than our past episodes, but I think that's what's fun about the bold predictions. They're kind of based off of that gut feeling. So before we even get into our bold predictions, before I go over my first NFL bold prediction, I just think as a warm-up for DJ, I think one of our oldest debates we had starting at the end of last season was the Caleb Williams, Justin Fields debate, a debate that encompassed the entire NFL, but was especially heated in our friend group. DJ, could you just give us a quick synopsis of your view of the Justin Fields, Caleb Williams debate, what side you wanted, where you wanted things to go?
Yes, I knew this would come up. I'm known in the group, our little friend group, as like the Fields guy. I was always getting his back during the season, and I would be lying if I didn't say I wanted them to keep him for a while. But then I started actually seeing how Caleb Williams actually acted instead of reading random people on Twitter's opinions of his character, and he seemed like he had a lot of moxie. So throughout the whole offseason, I was in the middle, I could care less which way they go. I did want Marv. That was a big thing. I thought he was easily the best player in the draft, and that was a big reason for my thoughts. But I'm very happy with Caleb now. But something to be said, obviously Caleb, better option at quarterback. So who wouldn't take a trade for Justin Fields and Caleb Williams? We use Caleb Williams, get Fields back. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, maybe get Russ in that trade too. We get Russ and Fields in there. Then we have two quarterbacks, and two quarterbacks is better than one quarterback.
Yeah, we can run like a two quarterback backfield, no running backs.
That makes sense.
But DJ, now that we have Williams, what are your just general thoughts for looking forward to the 2024 season? What are your hopes? What are your wishes, dreams?
Pumped. Super Bowl now, like tomorrow. It's awesome. Just seeing an athlete coming in with that confidence could either be read as they're cocky or they're the man, and it's given more of the man vibes. Caleb Williams knows what he wants to do. He knows how he wants to do it, and it seems like he's willing to not do that in a Hollywood fashion. He wants to be a member of the team and work with the people around him to create that strong bond. And I cannot wait to paint my nails first Green Bay week and just make everyone mad. So yeah, I'm really excited, and I don't think even a long shot to say the best situation a rookie quarterback has come into ever. The offense is stacked. I always forget when talking about it that we still have DeAndre Swift, which is a great pass catching option for him too. Cole Kmet, top 10 tight end last year. It's good stuff, man. It's very exciting. Hard not to think it's different this time, but the Bears.
I think that's one of the best, a good point you made about Caleb Williams' confidence and just him coming in knowing he's been the guy for, the past 5 months. But in actuality, in Caleb's mind, he's been the guy for the past, 5 or 8 years, right? Since he started playing. And that confidence, you see it in the press conferences, you see it in his media, you see it on the field. And that's something you haven't seen with certainly Mitch Trubisky. I was terrified anytime I saw him in a press conference, and I was thinking, this guy's leading our franchise. So to now see that the confidence with Caleb, I think is something new to Chicago that is very exciting.
Yeah, I think that point you made about seeing Caleb Williams, the actual person and not what Twitter says, is a big thing too. I know Cole Kmet, he had an interview where we talked about when he actually sat down with Caleb Williams for his top 30 dinner, kind of saying like how he had expectations for what Caleb Williams was going to be like, probably reading all this like Hollywood stuff, his USC, NIL stuff, and sitting down and Caleb Williams, the person is different entirely. So I think that's something exciting. You know, there's been so much noise around this entire draft and this entire season for the Bears. Every week, I feel like there was a new like garbage article kind of slagging Caleb Williams' character. So I'm excited. I think we're all excited to just get there and watch him win football games. You know what? If he paints his nails, FU Packers, we'll all put FU Packers on our fingernails and go win a Super Bowl, baby.
Well, I think that transitions nicely into our first NFL bold prediction. Caleb Williams becomes the first QB in Bears history to throw for 4,000 passing yards. And in addition, I think he would become the sixth rookie QB of all time to throw for 4,000 yards. The other five are CJ Stroud, Justin Herbert, Jameis Winston, Andrew Luck, and Cam Newton. As DJ hit on before, Caleb Williams is coming into, I think, the best situation a rookie quarterback has ever entered. He's got probably, I would say, certainly a top 5 receiving core in the league. Some would say, I'm going to say top 3, or maybe even the best.
Just come on, say it, man. Hot takes episode.
Offensive weapon wise, he is absolutely loaded with a new offensive coordinator and Shane Waldron from the Seahawks, who was able to revive Geno Smith's career. I think he's someone that's comfortable talking to QBs and working and developing quarterbacks. We also have the third best strength of schedule going into the 2024 season, meaning we have the third easiest season. We're playing a lot of trash teams that I think we can beat up on, and I think Caleb Williams has the potential to make history early in his Bears career. What do you guys thoughts on that?
Well, so you think he breaks Eric Kramer's 1995 record of 3,838 yards? You do. Where he also went 29 touchdowns, 10 receptions. Yes? That's what you're saying?
Bold prediction, he also throws 30 touchdowns. That's my predictions. 30 touchdowns over 4,000.
That's Kramer's rookie record?
Kramer holds the season lead, yeah. Jay Cutler also holds 4 of the top 5. That's crazy.
I don't have him on me, but the Bears rookie QB records are terrible.
Probably terrible, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna reframe that last bold prediction asterisk. Okay, I'm gonna say 25 touchdowns. The record is 31, so that would be pretty nuts. I'm gonna say 25 and 4,000.
Who has 31? Is that Mayfield or was that?
That was 2020 Herbert. He had a rocket of a season.
Williams throwing for 4,000. It's sad that 4,000 is such a mark for the Bears. We are the only team that hasn't had somebody throw for 4,000. 10 quarterbacks last year threw for 4,000, including Trevor Lawrence, Brock Purdy, and Baker Mayfield, who are like 3 great quarterbacks, great situations, great teams. But yeah, I think it's an achievable goal. And I think with the weapons that we've surrounded, it's hard to say that we're not at least a top 7 offense in terms of weapons on paper. So I think that's definitely reasonable to go for. As DJ, you said, definitely can't think of off the top of my head better situation for a quarterback to walk into as a rookie. So I think that's something that, high bar to set, but I think Caleb Williams can do it. I agree, Pat.
Yes. DJ, you got a quick reaction to that?
I don't know about all-time rookie records, but I do think Caleb Williams is going to shatter most of the Bears QB rookie records like easily. I do think he breaks 4,000 yards this year. It seems like we have just the total base to have an explosive offense, and Shane Waldron is known for those like deep balls. Tyler Lockett was always somehow open 80 yards down the field.
Some quick hits on Bears rookie records. The single season rookie passing record is 2,193 yards set by Mitch Trubisky. The season passing touchdowns is 11, set in 1942 by Charlie O'Rourke.
Love him.
While serving as Sid Luckman's backup, and still holds that record to the day.
Oh my God, how many touchdowns did Mitch have his rookie year?
He came in after Glennon. Glennon had like 80 though.
Let's see. Mitch's rookie year, 7 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Right at that 1-for-1 mark.
Good KD.
Yes, Charlie O'Rourke has the most passing touchdowns by a rookie. By a large mark, Kyle Orton and Duke McMahon tied for 9.
Okay, cool. So I'm glad we covered my first bold prediction. Connor, I want to pass the rock over to you to go to your first NFL bold prediction. Floor is yours.
Yeah, and this is a real just kind of like vibe check, reading the tea leaves here. And honestly, all 4 of my predictions are pretty tea leaf heavy. But my first prediction is that Justin Fields starts 8+ games for the Steelers this next year. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing remains to be seen. But I think Russ has shown in the past 2 years that Some of the magic might have left ever since he had that hand injury for the Seahawks. I do think Mike Tomlin is a good coach. Obviously, he hasn't had a losing season, and I don't know if he ever has or not in a long time. You know, you could also argue that the Steelers haven't had like a good season in a long time either. They kind of hang around that like 500 mark for a long time. But I do think Justin Fields will show in some way or another that he still deserves to be a starting quarterback in the league. Whether that leads the Steelers to the promised land for the playoffs remains to be seen. But I think Justin Fields is at this point too hard of a worker and too talented in the running game and other parts to be kept off the field. So I think he will end up starting games for the Steelers, and I have him at 8. I think this might mark the end of Russ's kind of starting career after this season. It'll be interesting to see how the Steelers actually play out. I know looking at quick power rankings, they seem to, always hang in on that top 13, top 10 pole position. I don't really know about that, but yeah, that's my first prediction.
DJ, I'll pass the rock to you. What do you think?
Well, I honestly, one of my bold predictions is going to be Justin Fields doesn't start like a lot of games.
Ooh.
So, but I mean, are you counting as a kick returner? Would that count as starting a game?
That would not count. Start as a quarterback.
Though I don't think Russ is going to do anything special either, and the Steelers have the history of just like going through, rotating in a circle of all their quarterbacks because they haven't seemed to have gotten that right since Big Ben. So their QB room is definitely upgraded. Dangerfield's been nicknamed the new QB field. Yeah, that's what the word around the league is. Little birdie's telling me. I mean, I don't know. It's just weird with the Steelers QB room. If Justin Fields obviously is talented, but they posted a photo of all their quarterbacks recently, and just Fields' mechanics are clearly the worst out of all of them.
Oh, really?
His throwing mechanics have always been a little iffy. From when he starts winding up to actually throwing it's just bad. But the running game is undeniable. He's legit probably one of, if not the best escape artist in the current NFL. Like from, he's clearly going to die and get sacked here to, that was a 20-yard run or a completed pass to DJ Moore or whoever down the field. Either way, I can see the Steelers sticking with Russ because they didn't want to be wrong the entire season, and none of their backups are that much better of an option. Or what you said, Justin Fields takes the game and we get a 4th-round pick instead of a 6th out of it.
That's the main thing. If that could happen, that'd be sick. But I just feel like the Steelers, since Big Ben, I feel like it's weird in the NFL where certain teams sometimes get labeled as like failing quarterbacks, and some players just get labeled as busts. Like, I feel like very few people said that the Steelers failed Kenny Pickett or anything like that. I feel like the Steelers are just a franchise that won't get that label attached to them. But yeah, I feel like the Steelers, Mason Rudolph started 4 games last year. Like, Kenny Pickett started games, Trubisky started games. They're a team that can't figure out the quarterback position right now, and I don't think Russell Wilson's going to come in and solve that. I don't think they do a good job of like developing quarterbacks right now, so I think that Justin Fields will start games. I will say Justin Fields starting 8 games. Not the craziest take in the scope of other things that we might talk about. But yeah, I just think back of my head, I could see him still being a starter in this league.
Throw some stats at you right now. Russell Wilson in 2022, he threw for 1,300 more yards than Justin Fields in his 2022 campaign. In 2023, he threw for 500 more yards. Did you know when Russ in 2022 threw for 3,500 yards?
What was their record that year?
Very bad. I think bad. But he did show improvement. I think Russ showed improvement from 16 touchdowns to 26 in his second stint with the Broncos.
Yeah, his last season wasn't that bad. Like, he actually had a decent season last year.
Yeah, certainly. I think it came down to conflicts with Sean Payton. I do agree with you guys. I think Russ is going to be on a short leash, and I think Justin Fields is going to be a quick. If Russ shows quickly he's not the guy, I think Justin will certainly earn his way onto the field. Now, what can he do with that? Remains to be seen. I could totally, on your side, DJ, though, see this is the last time we see Justin Fields.
He shipped off to Siberia. Yeah, never see him again.
Disappears, never heard from again.
This flag I have in my room of him sliding on the water is just but a distant memory.
Okay, so Justin Fields, 8+ starting games. DJ, I'm going to move it over to you. I'm going to bounce past Skadoosh to you. DJ, I know we kind of scooped you there with the Justin Fields not starting a game. Do you have any other takes that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I haven't really talked to either of you much about picks from the draft other than the Bears, but the Michael Penix pick, not that bad. Not that dumb. Not that stupid. That's my hot
Interesting.
take. And I just like obviously you just signed Kirk Cousins to this massive deal, and I could see it as like why they would do it. And this isn't why I don't think it's dumb, but I can see like the thinking of like, oh look at Jordan Love, sat behind Aaron Rodgers for however long, first round draft pick for a backup quarterback, but it wasn't a top 10 pick to be fair. But still, I can see like them wanting to develop Michael Penix. That I think the issue comes in with where people are totally confused is Michael Penix is not young in terms of like a rookie quarterback, so sitting him is only going to age him more. And I think by the end of Kirk Cousins' contract, he's going to be 28. So that's pretty old to just be coming into the league. But I did think Penix should have gone before McCarthy, so I'm glad that happened. I thought Michael Penix was one of the better QBs in the draft. I thought he should have been drafted to a place where he had a chance to fight for a starting position. I thought he was going to go to Denver if he was still on the board by then. I don't think it was that stupid. I can see Kirk Cousins getting hurt again, and then Michael Penix coming in and earning like at least clout that way. So maybe he doesn't have to wait till the end of a contract and he gets traded somewhere else to go be a good quarterback. But I think Kirk Cousins is a great guy to sit a quarterback like Michael Penix behind. And yeah, what do you guys think about that take?
Well, so to ask then, do you think that this is a bold prediction that's going to be proven in this year? Or like what's your timetable for Penix and when do you think he'll actually like get the chance to start being a starter?
I guess that's a good point. I just don't think it's dumb for Penix. It might be dumb for the Falcons right now, but at the same time, they have a really good offense. They have a pretty loaded team, so I don't think having a rookie quarterback drafted in the first round is that dumb. So I think it'll be proven. I don't know about this year. If the Falcons are good, it's like doesn't really show anything if Michael Penix never played. So I think it'll show whenever Michael Penix plays for them, and if they do trade him and get a good return, I think that also shows that the Falcons made a good choice.
You know, DJ, I think there's a lot to be said that wasn't said on draft day about the reasoning behind the pick. You think of teams like the Broncos or the Steelers or the Saints with Peyton Manning, Ben Roethlisberger, or Drew Brees, who had these veteran quarterbacks, but then didn't really have a backup plan once they retired. They're still to this day struggling to find that career franchise quarterback. So getting out ahead of that and hopefully drafting the quarterback now with the assumption that you're probably not going to have the opportunity to draft a top 10 quarterback for the foreseeable future. I will say though, this does seem like they're kind of counting their eggs before they've hatched. Right? Of saying, well, we already know that we're going to win or be a very dominant team right now. So we're already looking ahead to the future. When I think Kirk Cousins might appreciate having more weapons to win now instead of already planning for the future. Their huge weakness right now is their defense. So adding some type of defensive weapon like a Dallas Turner would have helped them win now, but I see the logic behind the pick of preparing for the future and trying to build a more solid foundation that's built to last compared to those other teams that I mentioned.
I agree. I think the whole idea of QB purgatory, people hate talking about it. One of the worst spots to be in the NFL, obviously. Like the Broncos sitting there all the time. Like the Bears would sit in there for a long time too. Where you can't get up to the first pick. You hang around the top 10 picks, and you kind of end up being like the Broncos taking the sixth quarterback in the draft, right? I think he's a great quarterback. I agree. I think his production was great at Washington. Kind of had a tough end of the season with that Michigan game and didn't do great at the Senior Bowl. But I think Jordan Love sat behind for 2 years with Aaron Rodgers and was able to develop. So interesting to see how Kirk will come back coming off of Achilles. That's kind of an interesting situation to put him in. And I think it's unfortunate, like a landing spot for Michael Penix, obviously not his fault, like for this draft to be like, this pick to be made fun of like that. And it kind of puts him gives him some unneeded pressure for his career. But I think it's interesting. I will say I kind of agree more on your side, Pat, where it's like, the Falcons are signing Kirk Cousins, who's, I believe, 36 years old right now, in a more of a win-now situation. And to be already thinking about your quarterback for the future, it's like, why don't you think about now? Like, right, I get the Jordan Love situation is great because now they have a good quarterback. But also when they had Aaron Rodgers, they didn't win a Super Bowl. Like, obviously they won the one Super Bowl, but in the era where they drafted Jordan Love, they didn't win a Super Bowl, right? So you could have thought about, like, what if they had drafted more of a playmaker instead of a quarterback to sit behind? They could have maybe made a more aggressive push to the Super Bowl. So I think sometimes it's tough where like teams are always kind of waiting to hang around or are scared to kind of take that like kill shot to go to the next level. And they're always kind of thinking about the future and being very risk adverse. I love the pick though for Rome to fall to the Bears. I think that's the bottom line.
All right, DJ, you got any response to that, or you want us to move on to the next take?
I mean, no, you guys, even your worries kind of stick to my point. I just said I didn't think it was like that stupid. Did you guys see the video of the owner going into the draft room and like standing there and the GM is like, oh, here's why we did it. And the owner's like mad. Have you guys seen that video?
No, I haven't seen that video. The owner didn't expect it.
Yeah, no, there's a video of the owner in the war room, like, and the GM is like, he's like in the GM's face, and the GM's like, with his hands, like, explaining why they did it after the Penix pick. But I really don't think it was that awful. But I see the total great point about the win now defensive draft pick that it should have been or could have been.
I'm going to transition into my next bold prediction. And DJ, this might be a little bit relevant to you. As a Los Angeles Chargers fan, the Chargers, despite losing all of their offensive weapons, I still think they make the playoffs this year under Jim Harbaugh. First of all, Jim Harbaugh, as a coach, he has a history of turning around bad programs into winning programs. He took a terrible Stanford program and led them to 2 college bowls or in his 4 seasons coaching. He also obviously took the San Francisco 49ers, now listen to this, that had missed the playoffs for 8 straight seasons and led them to 3 straight NFC championships and a Super Bowl. And then obviously, most recently, he took the Michigan Wolverines, who had not had a conference title since 2004, just this year took them to a college championship. The guy, he knows how to win a football game, and he knows how to transform a team. Now, how does he do that? How does he win those games? He has a very old school style of football that we saw to J.J. McCarthy's chagrin or frustration, maybe, that he plays a very run-heavy style of offense. A lot of hand the ball to the running back and run the ball with strong offensive linemen. And I think we're already seeing this offseason the moves that he's made to build that type of offense. That is by signing the Ravens offensive coordinator, getting J.K. Dobbins, and getting Gus Edwards, drafting Joe Alt. I think all of these moves indicate that they're trying to create this run-heavy offense that I think could be interesting in the playoffs. They also drafted Lad McConkey, wide receiver for Georgia, who proved to be a zone killer. And I think the Chargers could be interesting this year. Now, I had to dial this take back. I originally had them making a deep playoff run, and then I checked some of the betting odds to see what people said. But for betting odds, they have minus 105 according to FanDuel to make the playoffs, which is ranked 15th according to FanDuel out of all other teams. So they have pretty good odds. And then the last thing I'll say, I'll let you guys respond. But if you guys have seen Jim Harbaugh, how locked in he is to this season. When he first became the coach for the Chargers, before his family moved in, he and the OC had been living in vans by the beach in Los Angeles for 2 months at least. And he made some video on YouTube going through his van life. And it was just the perfect example of dad life, but not even dad life, just like extreme, only Jim Harbaugh life, what he could do. I just think this guy's locked in and committed and gonna turn things around for the Chargers. What are you guys' thoughts?
Yeah, so a lot of good points made by Sir Patrick Cunningham, but I'm gonna have to L plus ratio get get scrubbed here. I think they're gonna be pretty bad this year. I do think that next season will be a night and day instant difference, and they will be very good very quickly. But it's just like they're the bare bones of like a professional football team. I feel like right now in terms of like the weapons they got. I feel Justin Herbert's gonna be thrown to himself for most of the teams because Quentin Johnston can't catch a football. I hope that turns around. We're all QJ fans. Where I'm going to school, we're all big QJ truthers.
QJ, I love that.
Best eye candy in the league is what they call him. Everyone thinks QJ is gonna get the ball, and then he gets everyone else open.
Yeah, everyone thinks he's gonna catch the ball too, and he kind of
and then he tricks it. He tricks, yeah.
Tricks it every time, yeah.
Yeah, and who's the Chargers running back right now?
J.K. Dobbins or Gus Edwards.
Oh, so the Ravens' last running back group?
Yeah. So, who are both very injury prone.
Right. Well, yeah, Gus Edwards, I think, he's a good, like, the Ravens used him right. Like, he's a good utility back in the right situation. And J.K. Dobbins, I feel so bad for that man's career. Like, he had all the workings to be a stud, and just he keeps getting hurt. But when he's healthy and he gets in the open field, it just hurts to watch him run. He's still hobbling around, and I don't think they have that running back room that they would want to have that offense right now. I don't see them even having a winning record this year. And I'm not sure what their schedule, but they have to play the Chiefs twice. That hurts. I think the Raiders have a chance of being somewhat okay. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think I'm more on the DJ side. I agree, or I think it's interesting with Giro, Greg Roman coming in, bringing in this style of football with Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins. I think that's kind of interesting. Like, I don't know. I know it seems like you could point to it like not working in the past for their, I guess, pass-heavy build when they had Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and I guess Huge. They were not very good, but I don't think that's a reason to kind of go for the running offense. I think Justin Herbert's an incredible quarterback. It's kind of odd where they're going so hard-nosed football here. I think some of the contracts they have on the team are holding the team back from filling out the offense. I think you're losing Eckler, Williams, and Keenan Allen, and Gerald Everett all is like pretty tough for keeping the offense continuity going. I do think, Pat, what you were talking about is like a team. Harbaugh comes in and is able to like build a program. I mean, he was with Michigan since 2015, and this was the first time they made like any noise really. So I feel like he's good at building a vibe or building a culture there. So maybe that's something that'll be a future build. But I think right now, I don't see playoffs in their future. I don't think they'll like bottom out and be like in the top 5. I still think Herbert's good enough to be able to like produce wins. But I don't know about playoffs. That's a little rich for me, dog.
Okay, that's why it's a bold prediction. I love the debate. Okay.
I mean, what do you have to say about that? Do you want to like rip our face off now? How about that? We both just owned your point.
No, I mean, I agree. When you look at the roster from last year to this year, it's hard to see any improvement because there has not been any improvement. They've lost so many pieces. And like you were talking about those contract problems with Khalil Mack, Nick Bosa, or Joey Bosa, and Keenan Allen and all of their weapons they had to take care of, which I think they maybe have addressed with getting rid of all of their offensive players. Maybe that freed up some space. I just think maybe Harbaugh is enough to transform this team, and trying to completely switch the offense will maybe be enough to shake things up. But we'll see. Maybe they win 4 games this year.
All right, guys. This is a take that's kind of set your pants on fire. I think Bo Nix has a better season than every single rookie quarterback besides Caleb Williams. And, you know, I just think that is what it is. And I'm ready to hear people talk about it. But this is my least supported hot take that I have. But I think Bo Nix, his stats last year were bananas. And I think that his age gets blown out like way more than it should. A guy who goes into college and throws for 4,500, 44 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions, that is a redonkulous stat line. And I think like in Oregon the season before, he was able to produce well. You know, Auburn, he was obviously not very good. But I think Bo Nix is a guy who's walking into a pretty solid situation with Sean Payton. I think Troy Franklin was great to have him fall there. Him and the rest of the receiving room that they have is like solid. I think they have like decent playmakers as well. Obviously the defense is, you know, I think they improved at the end of the year. I think the 70 versus 20 game against the Dolphins kind of painted them in a bad light, you know, as it should. But I don't think the Broncos are that bad as a team. I think Bo Nix just gets a lot of hate because he's old and transferred. He's younger than Michael Penix. That's not true. He's older than Michael Penix. He's 24 years old, which is crazy. So it's interesting that he's like the same age as Trevor Lawrence, and Trevor Lawrence is probably up for a contract year right now. But I still think he's gonna be able to have success, especially compared to like Jaden Daniels coming into the Commanders or Drake May coming into the Patriots, JJ McCarthy coming into the Vikings. I think all 3 of those situations, and Michael Penix not going to start. I think he has the chance to be the second best quarterback from this class, at least in his rookie year. That's what I think.
How would you rate those? What metrics would you use to determine that? If he has a better quarterback performance than Jane Daniels, would you say the record or their passing yards? What would you use?
Yeah, interesting. So I think he will throw. Obviously, I think it's tough to compare passing yards with a guy like Jaden Daniels. It's the same Justin Fields thing where like you can't just look at direct when a guy can produce so much on his legs. I think you would probably just look at touchdowns, touchdown interceptions, and yards probably, and then also QB record. I think it's also tough because like the Broncos are picking at 12, Commanders picking at 2. There's clearly a talent difference, but I don't know. I guess it's more of a vibe thing, but I guess we'll see.
Now, DJ, do you think? Now we kind of got a QB battle between Bo Nix and Zach Wilson. Do you think there's potential for? Do you think Zach Wilson has a chance of getting in there and starting over Bo Nix?
Nope.
No. Okay.
No. But I also don't think Bo Nix is the best rookie. I mean, I guess only Jane Daniels and JJ are the other starting ones, and Caleb obviously, but you excluded him.
Drake May will start.
Oh,
yeah.
Drake May, right? Oh. Ew.
I mean, I think Drake May has a terrible season. I think
you do. Well, I don't like Drake May.
Drake the Snake.
You don't like Drake May? You don't like Drake May? No, you got DJ.
Did you hear what he did? Like his camp did, which may or may not be true, but I heard like multiple sources on Twitter told me about what they did.
Is this the Topgolf thing, or them saying they didn't want to play on the Bears?
That one, the Bears one.
Okay.
That call had to just be like, who is this? Just calling him, but I don't like that.
Hey Drake, we're not thinking about tanking you anyways, but thanks for your input, Drake. Yeah.
Wait, so elaborate on that, DJ, a little bit. I'm not familiar with the entire story.
That's pretty much it. His camp called the Bears and was like, "Yeah, we don't want to play for you, so don't pick us." And I just thought that was such an ego save. If they didn't pick him, Drake May could come like, "Yeah, I called him, told him I didn't want to play there, so they didn't pick me, obviously."
Yeah, it's like if Spencer Rattler came out and was like, "Yeah, I actually told the Bears that don't draft me number one." It's like, okay, cool, Spencer. Yeah, like I told last year, I told the Panthers not to draft me as well. I didn't want to go into that poverty franchise, but yeah, I agree.
No, that's interesting. I mean, I think when you think of the rookie QBs, I think the favorite right now, honestly, is JJ McCarthy. I've been seeing a lot of takes of him winning Rookie of the Year. Whatever you think of that, McCarthy he caught a lot of flack for his production and his lack of production in college. I think he's still a talented passer and is going into one of the best situations in the NFL right now with Justin Jefferson. I think they have a very good offense. I think their defense is not very good, but they have Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, and Aaron Jones. I think they have a lot of weapons on offense. Now, what he does with those weapons, who's to say? But I think compared to Drake May and Jane Daniels, I think he's in a better situation. I think Caleb Williams is still in a better situation than McCarthy, and I think 100% Williams has been better than Bo Nix's situation. Now, the receiving core for the Broncos, they still have Cortland Sutton, I believe. Tim Patrick's coming back. Mims,
Josh Reynolds, productive receiver. Troy Franklin, very productive receiver with the Oregon Ducks. Lil Jordan Humphrey can still play. Jalen Virgil is their fourth receiver listed. Michael Bandy, David Sills. These are just off the top of my head. And Adam Troutman. And Greg Dulcich is also he's a playmaker. Look, I'm not going to die on this Bo Nix hill, but I'm just saying when it happens, you can go back and look at this and see what happened.
Okay, so DJ, I'm going to pass it back to you. Do you have any other takes that you'd like for us to share? Anything else cooking back there?
So I do. I have another take. I think this one's a little more spicy than my Michael Penix one because that's kind of more relative. And this one we can actually dig into some stats and seem like we're actually professionals in talking about NFL football. I think Sam Howell, Seahawks quarterback, goes on to take the job from Geno Smith and leads the Seahawks to the playoffs this year.
Good douche. Boom.
Boom. Mic drop. Silence. I know. It's crazy.
Say that one more time.
So actually in our last episode, I do mention the Seahawks, and I say the Seahawks I think are weak. They're weak. I think DK Metcalf is becoming, I guess that's unrelated to Sam Howell, but I think DK Metcalf is becoming maybe more of a problem.
Too much of a hot dog.
Tyler Lockett maybe is aging out a little bit. Maybe, they don't have Pete Carroll. Maybe some things are going to be shaken up. But Geno, I mentioned his story might be over. His fantasy, his past couple years of success, I think might be over. DJ, what's your reasoning behind Sam Howell's success?
No, well, the first one is I have heard that Geno has picked up the pen and has started writing back. So he's finally going to send that letter back to the people that wrote him off. But I think Sam Howell, this mainly comes from Sam Howell getting blamed for a lot of the Commanders' other problems that they had. Like the underutilization of Terry McLaurin is a big deal. And I feel like they didn't scheme the offense for him enough. I mean, it's clear that Terry McLaurin was a stud and that was a clear wide receiver one for them. And he never really heard much of that, and Terry McLaurin was getting upset with how they were using him. And even Heineke would just huck the ball up, and McLaurin would be in triple coverage, and he'd still make the catch. And Heineke got them through a lot of games actually, and was like, oh my God, Heineke might be a guy just because he was like, all right, Terry McLaurin's down there somewhere. And so I feel like they tried, Sam Howell is a rookie or a young quarterback, obviously not going to do that. Terry Heineke had nothing to lose, so it didn't really matter for him. And then some other points, like the supporting cast for Sam Howell wasn't that great. He was one of, if not the most, I don't have the exact stat, but sacked quarterbacks in the NFL. And his time I don't even think he held onto the ball too long. I just remember seeing a 2-minute long highlight tape of him getting the ball and getting killed because he would just get sacked so fast. But it just seemed like they didn't really know what they wanted to do with their offense, and they had a lackluster defense all year unless they played the Eagles for some reason. They decided that all right, we'll play some football now. But yeah, I just think Sam Howell got blamed for a lot, and I do have his passing stats. I'm looking at multiple 300-yard games. He regular season total passing yards were just under 4,000 last year at 39.46, so actually literally just under. He's a gunslinger. He absolutely just goes for it, and I think he takes the job.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think for the beginning of the season, Sam Howell was statistically throwing a lot of interceptions, but he also was leading the league in passing yards, I think for a decent amount of the year. I think he's a guy who can produce yards and produce numbers, and I think he's decent. I don't know if he's a guy who's necessarily playoff leader, or a guy who's going to like lead you to a Super Bowl, but I think he's like a guy who's proven that he belongs on the NFL stage. He was the most sacked quarterback last year with 65 compared to Bryce Young's 62. Zach Wilson was third with 46. So he got sacked a lot more, 19 more times than the third most, which is crazy. I think his situation wasn't the best with the Commanders. I think they gutted a lot of their team, especially moving Chase Young, Montez Sweat. I think the team as a whole didn't have as much talent around as they thought. I think I could see Geno Smith. I think just the talent, I think it was a great year that he had. I think you definitely saw a regression last year. And I think this year there might be another continuation of this like breaking apart of the Seahawks. And I think for better or for worse, I do think Sam Howell could be the starter. If that means that it's an upward tick or not remains to be seen. But yeah, I think I can agree with that. I can see that happening. Sam Howell's got a wide face. I'm going to say that. That's my hot take. Sam Howell's face gets wider this year.
I'm going to reiterate what I said about Geno, about people writing him off, and I think he's starting, like DJ said, starting to write back. His story may be starting to be over. I think, like we said with the Commanders, Sam Howell showed some flashes of being, like you said, Connor, leading the league in passing yards for a little bit. I think he's a very young quarterback. This is his third year. He's entering his third year. So, hey, we'll see. I think Geno's probably at the point now where if he starts to struggle, they might start looking at backups because they, were not superstar or not stellar last year compared to his year prior. Be interesting to see. Before this episode was not a take that I had heard before, so I'm very intrigued by it, and I think that would be a spicy take. I mean, he started 17, or he played a whole season with a team, so he can be there. He can play.
What does that mean? He can start every game for a team? He's capable of putting the jersey on every week?
I mean, he's just a backup that has shown that he can play a full season, has shown he can be a starter caliber quarterback who I think maybe the Seahawks will look at and feel more confident in of making the switch if Geno starts to suffer. All right, guys, I think we're going to go over one more spicy bold prediction. I'm going to skip over me and pass it back to Connor to give his last bold prediction of the episode, and then we're going to wrap this thing up. Connor, what do you got for us?
Yeah, so I wrote down Jets bad, Aaron Rodgers bad stink lines here on the show doc, and I'm going to jump into that a little. So I think more, obviously last year was disappointing with Aaron Rodgers. He played, I think, 3 minutes of football, and that was disappointing from a football perspective. But I think as a whole, I think you saw a little more about like what the Jets team and the Jets as a whole were as an organization, and a little more about Robert Saleh. Like, I understand that it was frustrating that Aaron Rodgers went down in week 1, but I would also say that he went down in week 1 and the Jets kind of rolled over and let that happen. They didn't let him get injured, but they just accepted like, this is the end to our season. I think a 4-13 season after that is pretty pathetic, especially considering the roster talent that they have all around them with like Garrett Wilson, an incredible defense. So I think as a whole, like the fact that they didn't go out and sign a quarterback, especially watching like Joe Flacco come out and do great with the Browns, Josh Dobbs having like the success, whatever you call the success that he had in the league. I think there's like just options out there. And I think it also kind of showed that like Robert Saleh, I know we all think that he's a great coach, and he probably is a great coach, but he's had 3 seasons now with the Jets and hasn't had a single winning season. I know obviously he's been tied to Zach Wilson for all 3 of those years, but like at some point the coach has to take some responsibility for the lack of being able to lead a team of men to like win games. Like Gardner Minshew just took the Colts to the playoffs, and that's a knock. That's not a knock against Gardner Minshew, but that's also something with like Shane Steichen being a great coach. I feel like great coaches are able to rally around the talent that they have, and I feel like Robert Saleh, this might be the last year for him, especially if the Jets bottom out. I think Aaron Rodgers is also 41, so it's like let's talk about that. He's 41 years old. He's had warning signs last year, 2 years ago, and now he's coming off an Achilles injury. If he was, very few people are able to dominate after an Achilles injury. I know it's a tough injury to come back from. But yeah, in 2022, I feel like he had some regression, and then he took a year off now. So I don't know. I think people are hot on the Jets just because they were hot last year and they had the Hard Knocks, and then they weren't able to talk about them. But I don't see it happening for the Jets this year. And you know what? I don't care what you think about it. Come at me in the comments. Come at me on X if you really want to, but I don't really care. That's my opinion.
DJ, I'll let you respond to that because I feel like I have some opinions on the Jets. Actually, one of my other predictions was the Jets succeed this year. But DJ, what's your thoughts on that?
All right. Well, man, you guys are much better at looking up actual stats than I am. I don't know. You guys pull that stuff up really quick, but I will say I do think he said Jet stink lines. I think that take was stink lines. You know what I'm talking about? Like I can smell it from here.
Oh, okay. Tell me how. Yeah, tell me what you really think.
These boys are overseas, and I can smell Connor's take from where I'm sitting. So I think that Aaron Rodgers is going to be not necessarily true to form coming off this injury, but I think he's going to be just fine and do good because you just talked about the offensive talent. They finally, I think, looked into some offensive line help because that was like their only glaring weak spot, and the
Olu
players,
Fashanu, yeah.
I think the players and other staff are up to like here with Salah and his shenanigans because yeah, he hasn't had a winning season and it's clear that in his mind he only is focused on defense, and I think that is clear in who he picks up and who he likes, which works out. Their defense is phenomenal. So, I mean, at least it seems like Robert Saleh knows what he's talking about in terms of defense, but I think he completely neglects the offense. You have Garrett Wilson, who is a stud. Like, he's clearly the best receiver they have and one of the better ones in the league, and he's just in a terrible, terrible situation. It's kind of like a quarterback the Bears had. These past, I can't think of their name, but anyway, I just think that Aaron Rodgers is going to be fine and that they're finally going to start leaning more and trusting the offense more. And I think it's going to be a night and day difference this season. I mean, the Bills, I think, are going to start regressing. I don't think they're going to be as good as they have been doing. I think Josh Allen comes the truth. I don't think he's bad, but I think he starts playing like kind of like
Wow.
a Jameis Winston type deal where he's like just still a gunslinger, just
Wow.
slinging the rock. If it gets picked, it gets picked.
We do not have time to cover that take, but that is spicy.
I just think their division is up. I think they're easy second place team in their division this year, behind the
Hmm.
Dolphins, because I think they're still going to be fine.
I'm more on the DJ Almada side here with this take. I think as we fist bump, I think now I'll say this has to be asterisks with Aaron Rodgers plays not necessarily a whole season, but he plays the majority of the season. If he's injured 4 plays into the season, all bets are off. Salah
Yep.
might go. But I think if Rodgers plays the whole season with the talent around him, other than Garrett Wilson and then also Brees Hall, who's one of the best running backs in the league, and according to DVOA, the weighted defensive average, the Jets have the third best defense in the league. Sauce Gardner is the best DB in the league. They have lockdown pass coverage. In the draft, they doubled up on linemen, drafting Olu Fashanu, and then they drafted another. I believe they drafted another tackle later in the draft. They seem to be making a push to build in the trenches and hopefully protect their franchise quarterback, their short franchise quarterback, temporary. And I think if
He's
Aaron Rodgers
tall.
plays I think if Aaron Rodgers plays the whole season, that he will be able to will the Jets to at least the playoffs. I think him and Garrett Wilson will be very Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers esque. I remember watching that first preseason game where he played, and you saw him throw to Garrett Wilson, and the first throw he threw a screen to Garrett Wilson, and I legitimately had never seen a ball get out that fast than that screen to Garrett Wilson. And that was a prediction for the rest of the season, what it could have been. It was comical how early he got hurt in the season. But I think Aaron Rodgers, I think the Jets are going to make the playoffs this year. I think they're going to be nasty if the Jets, but I will say, I agree with you, Connor. If another fiasco like that happens again this year with poor management by the coaching, then Salo certainly can be off the team.
It's like Justin Fields. It's like every minute of the game they cut to Salah looking sad on the sidelines because Zach Wilson is in the game. Like, I get that he's in a bad situation and that like it doesn't work out super well, but like I don't know. Eventually, you gotta like win games and you gotta put some responsibility on the staff. And DJ, I know, yeah, like you said, incredible defense, but I feel like just as a Bears fan, you know that like defenses is fleeting sometimes. Like sometimes the defense can just bottom out, and that's the way it is. Defense can like move in waves. So I agree that I think they have a lot of talent. I think he's a great defensive mind, but I don't know. That's just vibes for me low, and that's where I'm going to stay right now.
A lot of hot takes coming out in this episode. So if you guys have nothing else to add, I'm going to wrap this up, do a quick summary of all the takes that we made. Do you guys have anything else to add?
Wrap this puppy up.
Yeah, like a Christmas gift.
So for a quick summary for some of the takes that we had, my first take was Caleb Williams becomes the first QB in Bears history to break 4,000 yards, also joining rookie QBs to throw for 4,000. I also said the Chargers make a playoff push, to the disagreement of DJ and Connor. We had Connor had Justin Fields starts 8+ games for the Steelers, as well as the Jets and Aaron Rodgers in general bottom out. And then Connor also said Bo Nix will have a better rookie QB season than any other quarterback besides Caleb Williams.
Oh,
DJ had the takes of Sam Howell beating out Geno Smith for the Seahawks and leading the Seahawks heroically to a playoff berth. And DJ's first take was that the Michael Penix draft pick by the Atlanta Falcons at number 8 was not as crazy as the media would make you. But that'll do it for today's episode of the Chicagolandians. I first want to thank DJ Almada for blessing us with his time. I know it's very kind of him to take an hour out of his day, or an hour and a half out of his day, to speak with his two friends. Even though this podcast right now doesn't have a lot of viewers, we really appreciate your time, DJ, and it's always fun to catch up with you and talk to you about football.
no, I love that you guys have me. I love talking football. Again, you guys kind of made me feel like a chump with the stats you were pulling out of your back pockets, but I don't know. I feel like we're all at a place where we actually can have opinions that matter. So, I mean, you two just keep churning out episodes of it. Like, no podcasts make it past like certain amounts, and you'll just be one of the only options at some point. So, yeah, keep it up. You guys are great at this.
It's a numbers game.
Yeah, it is.
Thanks, DJ. So if you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to check out our YouTube channel and our Twitter/X. You can find both of those at the Chicagolandians. And you also might feel the need to share this episode with your friends or family. And if you were so moved by our hot takes, why not leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify? Unless you have a below 5-star review, you can save those.
Kindly discard that.
But as always, thank you again for listening to the end of this episode, and always bear down.
Bear down, baby.
Bear down.
Woo!